Pastor. How are you?
Doing well. Good morning.
Good. My name is Yewande Oladende, and I'm a postdoctoral fellow working on the Patients Project. I know you are a spiritual leader in the West Baltimore community. What is that like, and how does that influence your desire to talk about health and wellness?
Great question. So as a spiritual leader, we're responsible for the holistic needs of the people that we serve. So we're responsible for that trichotomy, that mind, body, and soul. And so what we attempt to do is address in their daily lives those things that impact those three things. Their finances, their physical being, their mental being, their spiritual being. So all of those things. And so with that calling, that vocation is something with which we hold immense pressure, pride, prestige, as we're really trying to help people with their overall quality of life.
Thank you very much. So how did your weight loss journey begin? Could you please give us a run through that?
Sure. So my weight loss journey, so approximately in June of 2013, so about a year and a half ago, I realized that I needed to make a massive change in my lifestyle as related to my weight. I've always been one who's been faithful in getting my annual physical done, and my doctor would always tell me that things were great except for my weight. And it was always something that I tended to ignore and just bypass. But at one point he said to me that I owed it to my son to give my son as much time together, the two of us, as I could, and that meant changing my weight and changing my lifestyle as related to my weight. So that started that journey a year and a half ago, and with that I've tried to remain faithful to it because I keep paramount in my mind, primary and paramount, that this at least gives me an opportunity to give he and I, my son and I, as much time together as possible.
What would you suggest for people who are sitting on the fence and know they need to start the weight loss process but are not fully motivated to make that commitment?
Well, I don't think that you can do it unless you're motivated. You have to be dedicated. You have to really say to yourself that no, I'm not dieting, I'm not doing something for a moment. I'm actually doing a paradigm shift in my life. I'm making a true change. I'm changing how I eat, when I eat, what I drink, what I do, because this is not something that you're just going to do for a month or two or a moment or two. If you do, it's going to fail. You're making a real change in your life, and the reason I say you must be motivated is because there are going to be others around you that aren't necessarily motivated. They're still going to be doing the same things, eating the same things, doing the same things they used to, but you have to be dedicated to the fact that you've made a change in your life. Therefore, if a person, when I have people come to me and say, I want to do what you did, my first question is, are you really ready? If you're not motivated, then it's not going to work.
Thank you. So, Pastor, how is your life different now that you've lost all that weight?
Well, outside of vanity. So, how is my life different? Well, first of all, when I started this journey, I was 272 pounds. I did not realize I was 272. I knew, as I said earlier, that my doctor told me I owed it to my son to make a change. So I talked to some friends who've been doing this for some time. I got some advice, and obviously one of the first things I did was step on the scale. And found that I was 272 pounds, and so that shocked me. I'm proud to say that today it's now 222, so there's been a big difference. And with that, I actually feel like at age 52, I'm in the best shape of my life today. So I have much more energy. My drive is much greater. I feel better. There were aches and pains in my body that I had before that I don't have today. And I think one of the most important things for me is that as a spiritual leader, other people, I'm in front of people all the time, so other people have noticed and have also started this journey themselves. And so my life is different in those positive ways today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Excellent. Excellent.
What are some of the myths surrounding weight loss in the African American community?
So some of the myths surrounding weight loss in the African American community, number one, that it can't be done. So one of the things that we often hear is that we are simply dieting and one of the negatives with diet is that it's going to come back and you're going to have more weight the next time than you had when you started out. So that's one of the first myths. And as I said earlier, we shouldn't really be dieting per se. It really should be a lifestyle change. And if you're doing a lifestyle change, then quote unquote, it's not coming back. Number two, a second myth as it relates to the African American community is that you don't look healthy if you lose weight. One of the things that I often hear, and I heard a great deal as I was on my journey, there were the whispers about what's wrong with Pastor, right? That there must be something wrong with Pastor. That Pastor's smaller now, and so there must be something wrong, and he simply hasn't told us yet. True story, anecdotally, my very own mother called me one day to ask me, am I sick, and just haven't told her because it just doesn't happen for us that we lose weight to such a degree. And so she wanted to know, you can tell me what's going on. So the two primary myths that I've seen is that number one, you can't do it and sustain it. That's a myth. That's absolutely a myth. And number two, that we don't look well if we lose weight. There is this perception in the African American community that almost being overweight is healthy, is the norm. And we've got to change that. We've got to let people understand that the norm is to be a smaller weight, a healthier weight, and the exception is the obesity. But that's a paradigm shift that we've got to make in the community, and that's work that we've got to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Along those lines, what are some suggestions to get in the community to have that paradigm shift? Because it's not that easy, especially if it's considered the norm in the community where you come from.
There is so much that we need to unpackage in that question, because unfortunately it's not just in the individual, but it's also in the community. And by that I don't mean people, I'm talking about the assets in the community. So I pastor a church that's in Greater Mondawmin, and one of the struggles that I've been battling in Baltimore City for some time is what we call food deserts and food swamps. There is an abundance of places that people can go and get chicken boxes in half and halves. But there are very few places where people can go and get healthy produce and fruits and vegetables and the like. So number one of the things we have to do is we have to give people greater accessibility to those healthier food options, right? So that's one of the things that's required. Number two, when we start talking about tips, we have to change the way that we approach food. So we have to eat more often. One of the things that I learned to do was every 3.5 to 4 hours, I have a meal no bigger than the size of my hand. So you're eating more often, and what you're attempting to do is to have your body's metabolism raised so it's burning more often. Then we have to get rid of the soft drinks. They're just not healthy. There's no way of spinning that. God made water for us, and the more water we can drink, the more we can intake, the better. So it has so many health attributes for us, positives that we need to take on. So we've got to be drinking more water. We need to eat smaller meals more often. We need healthier food options. A lot of the processed foods that we take on, a lot of the sweets that we take on aren't healthy, and they're just not going to help us. So what I would tell people is change what you eat, when you eat, what you drink, and I know this fourth people won't want to talk about, but you've got to exercise. That's going to be different for different people. You might just want to walk a mile a day. Some people can run, some people can go to the gym, but there's got to be some physical activity. Bottom line, if you burn more calories than you take in, then you're going to lose weight. But if you have a sedentary life where you're not doing much, you're sitting around all day, and you're eating a lot of junk, you're in trouble.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, just give me 1 second.
So now bringing it back, are you afraid you're going to gain the weight back?
So you would think after everything I've said thus far that answer would be no, that I'm not afraid. But the reality is I'm terrified.
Wow.
I fully know, and as I've said over and over again, and so I'm redundant at this point, that this really is a lifestyle change. I cannot go back to old habits and expect to stay where I am. So as it is today, I try to be faithful to my gym time, faithful to my diet, and by diet I simply mean what I eat. I try to eat what we call clean eating, so it's white meat, produce, white meat proteins, fish, vegetables, fruits, and I do all of this for one major reason, and this is what started it. I want to give time for my son and that means I need to maintain eating healthy. I need to maintain working out. I do not want to be 270 pounds again. I like where I am, and so yes, bottom line, that is a concern. It stays in my mind, and it drives what I do.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So some people say, in the community say that they don't have the money to buy organic produce, or they don't have the money to buy fresh produce. And they also say they cannot afford a nutritionist, or they don't have the money to enroll in a gym. So what suggestions do you have for people like that who really want to lose weight but may be constrained by economic factors?
Okay. I'm glad you asked that question. So there are two things there. Number one, there are some people for whom those statements are excuses, and they're just not ready yet. But I don't want to trivialize it, nor do I want to invalidate it. It is valid for some. And that's really the audience to which I want to talk at this point in time. There are some people, so I talked about Greater Mondamin, so let me just give a few statistics. Greater Mondamin has a 20.4% unemployment rate. So there are a number of people in this community who are unemployed, and therefore for whom a gym membership or shopping at Whole Foods is luxury,
Right.
not a necessity, and that's valid. But what I would say to that audience is there are ways that you can still do this. Maybe you don't have the funds to hire a trainer or go to a gym, but we have Druid Hill Park. You can walk around the reservoir. There are things you can do. So maybe you don't have the funds to buy kale chips, right? But you don't need to buy the Lay's potato chips.
Right.
There are things you can do. And so to that audience, I would say, if you're really dedicated, if you're really committed to this, there are ways to work it without necessarily hiring a trainer, going to a gym, shopping at an organic food store. There are healthier choices you can make. I would say, and I'm going to say this again, don't buy the sodas. Buy bottled water. Drink your water, right? Buy fruit. Buy veggies. You don't need to buy the oodles and noodles. So there are things you can do. It is a valid concern for some people, but if you're really committed to it, there are people, I would be willing to help. There are others, I'm sure you could help. There are others who can say, here are some alternatives you can do that would lead you to a healthier diet. There are some ways that you can work out without going to the gym. There's some physical activities you can do. So if you really want to do it, don't let financial resources prohibit you from doing it.
Thank you very much, Pastor. So no more excuses. That commitment to making that lifestyle change has to be there. All right, thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much for your time, Pastor, and hopefully these tips you've given will go a long way. So you're not just, you're walking the talk, not really just saying it and reading it out of a textbook. So thank you very much for those practical suggestions.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right.